Hello, lovely people. I just wanted to share with you a book that I just finished over the weekend called 1947 by Elizabeth Asbrink. And it's a book, Elizabeth originally wrote the book in Swedish, and then it was translated by Fiona Graham. And it is such an interesting book. I'm sharing this. I like to share books written by women as part of my mission to make women more visible in the world. And this is such an interesting book because it just goes month by month through the year of 1947 and brings together these little chapters or little snippets rather in each chapter of things that are happening around the world. So you'll get a couple of paragraphs on London, and then you'll get a couple of paragraphs on Germany, and then sometimes it's a couple of paragraphs on a person, sometimes it's what's happening at a nation at the level of the state. And it's 1947, so there's so many books that you might have read about the war itself, the Second World War, but this is really about the aftermath of the war. And the subtitle of it is When Now Begins. And it's really fascinating to think about all the foundational pieces that were put together in the 40s, in the late 40s, so let's say 45 to 50, that then form the foundation of the world that we live in today. I would also, by the way, love to see a version of this in somewhere in the 90s. I feel like the next big, enormous shift, particularly with technology, with regard to some feminist concepts and so forth, really started to take shape in the 90s. And it would be great to see Elizabeth, it would be great to see a book about something, I don't know, maybe 92, 93. So I just want to share a couple of little snippets to give you an idea of whether you might be interested in reading it yourself. The first is I think we're in January or February, we're in February, and we're in Germany. And she says, here, you just get a sense of her writing from this. The four victorious powers agree that the Nazis must be brought to account. Do they want to exact vengeance, to receive compensation, to secure peace? All of those things, but also to emphasize certain events and avert their gaze from others. Both call a halt and move on. So you get even in that paragraph a sense of the complexity of the time, of the nuance of the conversations that were going on, and the fact that she certainly doesn't come out with a clear right or wrong sort of position on these things. She brings forward the complexity. There's another piece here, London, in the chapter, which is still February. We're at the end of February here. On 18 February, Great Britain relinquishes responsibility for Palestine. On 20th February, the Prime Minister, Clement Attlee, announces that the British will be granting India independence. Goes on a little bit like this, different actions the British are taking. The empire is collapsing. The country that once wielded world dominion is relinquishing it. The country that commanded the seas and the trade routes, held the balance of power and disseminated its language, sport, arms, education, system, currency, and soldiers across the globe is now cutting ties and turning in on itself. An incomprehensible week. And then one last little snippet for you. This truly is my favorite way to learn history. This is Jura, which is a place where George Orwell was living in the latter part of his life. And so this is jumping into George Orwell. We're in, let's see which month we're in, November. George Orwell types away non-stop in the upstairs bedroom, chain writing, chain smoking, chain coughing. His temperature is up. He has yet to be diagnosed with tuberculosis. George Orwell is still alive. He still has a further couple of changes to make to his manuscript, and he knows nothing of the huge impact his words will have. He lies in his sickbed, writing the words that will make up his last work, and names the book 1984. So it's a beautifully written book. It's really informative. If you are interested in the complexity of the world and the influences that make up history and also the world we live in today, then you may well enjoy this book. There's a lot. It's much more Northern Hemisphere focused than Northern and Southern. There are parts of it in the Southern Hemisphere. And there's a lot about Palestine and Israel, the creation of Israel, and that is presented in all the complexity that you would hope in relation to that conversation. I think it's such a good response to the tendency that has arisen in recent years, perhaps not new, but certainly has come to the forefront in recent years, of looking at complex issues and then just presenting things as either black or white. And I think this is a beautiful kind of response to that kind of a thing. So Elizabeth make sure I pronounce it correctly, Elizabeth Asbrink, 1947.